But pleasingly, I think at my point in the agenda, I find myself in a really nice position to be able to bring a lot of what you've heard already today together and actually take us back to the initial theme of this overall event today, and that is, what is the factory of the future? What does the factory of the future look like? And what steps can we be taking today to begin to get there? Ultimately, what we've heard about so far is about looking much deeper within enterprises, operations, work streams, and even individual processes. Really to be able to see more and do more and to squeeze out as much inefficiency as possible in order to take the concept of lean to a new level. So there's 4 broad themes that we'll cover today. Visibility, a word that we've heard many, many times, but a word that will, by its very nature, mean different things to different people, because it is all about perspective. And the visibility requirement from one organisation to another, or even one work stream and process to another, will vary wildly. We'll also consider the factory of the future, what it looks like. Get right the way back to the start of this event, touching upon some of the themes that Motorola spoke about, and really looking at some of the data issues and data complexities that you've seen presented today also. And then looking at this concept of a full stack visibility suite. It's been mentioned a couple of times today that Zebra are the best in class barcode printing company, and that's great, I'll take that. But we do so much more than that. There are many, many other automatic data capture technologies that we provide that it will be great to introduce those to you today. And finally, what is your opportunity? As a manufacturer, how do all of these things stack up and present you with an opportunity to begin to take steps down this journey of the future state of manufacturing, whatever that may be, to each and every one of your organisations? So when we say perspective and visibility, let's step away from manufacturing completely. Let's just think about how we interface with the world through our eyes. What tools do we use in order to get greater visibility into various aspects or activities that we're working on? The point of this slide really is about choosing the right technology to meet the required need in terms of what you're looking to achieve and what you're looking to access. So if you're a scientist in a lab looking at microorganisms, the tool that's required is obviously a microscope. You're not going to be using a Hubble-grade telescope to access that kind of information. And equally, if we're wanting to read a newspaper, again, we're not going to be using binoculars to do that. It will be either our eyes as they are or an improved visual aid in the form of a contact lens or glasses. And when we think about data capture and being able to interrogate objects and items, the same rules apply. The humble barcode, a very, very well-established and old technology, now over 40 years old, is fantastic. It's a great piece of technology. It serves us very, very well. But as we get closer to the factory of the future, as technology takes big and bold steps forward, it's not always fit for purpose, because our manufacturing operations, our manufacturing processes and the related work streams may need a greater level of visibility, may need a greater response time in terms of the data that's being required and wanting to be drawn in than the barcode can provide. So it is a matter of perspective. It's about looking at what exactly and where you're looking for something and the best tools to achieve that. I'm going to bring us back to this slide. Daniel obviously sat on the same briefing that I did last year, but this really presents the state of manufacturing very, very nicely, I believe. I sense that we're at the cusp of something very, very special within manufacturing. This global crisis has been a shake-up of the space, a shake-up of the sector. The strong players have remained, and the strong players are those that are continually looking at means to improve their process, to improve their efficiency, to take lean concepts and lean thinking to new levels, and using new technologies in order to be able to achieve that. And some great comments here from Jeff Immelt, who talks very openly about the state of play today, the third industrial revolution, as we've heard, as being driven by and championed by government, as having a policy champion, a financier, a key partner, and more importantly, I think, an opportunity to reset the business, focus on what you do best. Because what we're seeing increasingly within the manufacturing sector, I believe, is a bringing back to centres of excellence. Certain industries having very, very clear skill sets based on geographies and based on unique country markets that simply cannot be offshored anymore. New technologies that are coming in, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, that will allow the much more cost-effective of component parts and prototyping on the inshore environment. So a very, very interesting time, and absolutely at the very beginnings of the third industrial revolution. And some fundamental changes in approach, and again, we've heard flashes of this throughout today, but I think it's important to really hone in on what's important here. Regardless of the vertical market we at Zebra look at, what we always come back to is the customer, the empowered consumer, who has the ability to spontaneously create information because of the technology tools they have in their own hands. And as a result of that, a much increased level of expectation in terms of service and what they are getting from either a retailer, a healthcare provider, or in this case, the manufacturer. So when a customer places an order and has it in their mind as to when they want the required product, a capacity model is no longer really sufficient, because a capacity model will tell them that they can have that product in 6 or 8 or 10 weeks' time, whatever the staging output is. Regardless as to whether the factory can turn around the product in 24 or 72 hours and is therefore more than capable of delivering the product within 5 days, 10 days, as opposed to months and many, many weeks. This isn't always happening. So we're seeing a real wrestle at the moment within many of the manufacturers that we speak to around changing this capacity model, which has been founded on some really bold lean principles coming in terms of Kanban and Kaizen and all of those bold initiatives from Japan. But looking to fulfill the perfect customer order and building to a capability model as opposed to capacity. To do that effectively requires much, much stronger use of data, the closer alignment of order book to production, and even beyond that, downstream to the best-in-class service provision of the item once it's delivered. And linking back to a presentation that we saw earlier about data excellence, this is absolutely the case. And what I find very interesting, this is an IDC slide, it comes from one of our analyst partners. Real-time data, as we've heard many times today, the provision of data in such a way that it is much more accessible and easy to use within the organisation is really the start point and the foundation layer to enabling the factory of the future. And that factory of the future is very much people intensive. It requires people, it requires a skill set that perhaps we don't necessarily have in volumes today. And I speak to some of the big tier 1 automotive manufacturers who are very, very concerned about this, about the new breed of engineer required to fulfill this factory of the future initiative. Critical to this is this decision-making environment, having a layer that will take all of this data and all of the hidden value within that data and having a means to filter it and process it to allow for much, much greater decision-making to be made within the manufacturing floor. And the best analogy that's been presented to me was talking with a manufacturer some weeks ago. And they said, Matt, that the factory of the future for us is very much like a modern Boeing or Airbus. If you think about it, the pilots that sit within this cockpit, what do? Well, they fly the plane. If you caught the news 2 or 3 weeks ago, you'd believe that they spend most of the time sleeping. But that aside, the pilots who fly these aeroplanes don't actually do a lot of flying. They don't have to do a lot of flying. Their role, their position, is to monitor and is to keep an eye on systems and to encode systems to override and make more informed decisions based on the constant data streams that are coming in to the various systems and tools they have on their decks here. And this is very much how we see the factory of the future taking shape, using predictive analytics, so not historical data, but looking much more to the future, using real-time information to make more informed and stronger decisions. And if you look at some of the organisations that are involved in adjacent spheres to us, SAP for instance, it's no surprise that they are investing hugely in predictive analytics software today because they see this coming. If we look at ARM, who've got silicon installed in 9 billion devices globally, the acquisitions they've just made with node-level sensors basically secures the next 9 billion devices, because the next 9 billion devices won't be your smartphone, it won't be your tablet, it will be empowered machines that have a digital voice to generate this real-time information, so that the factory of the future is one driven by systems and with empowered people and engineers who can make very, very strong decisions based on that information as it's coming into them. So when we say beyond the barcode, this really is this visibility stack that we begin to talk about. At the bottom, and this is the message I really want to leave with you all today, is this constant in terms of the right technology component to interrogate an object or a system or an individual in the most appropriate manner. Think back to that visibility slide at the start, the microscope, the telescope, the binoculars. The same rules apply here. Barcode is often good enough. In some cases, and in some instances, it won't be. We may need to make the jump into passive RFID, even into the realms of active RFID with ultra-wideband. And then beyond that, into the world of GPS, and even sensor-based information, as we were just referring to. Zebra does all of these things. So we are not just a print company that produces very, very high quality labels. Yes, that's our core business. But we have investments, we have technologies that span every single one of these technology layers that you see here. And this is the baseline for your data. All of those best-in-class data practices that we've seen and heard about earlier today, they are driven by being able to access information through a very, very strong gateway, and the most appropriate gateway on that item, on that asset, or even on that individual. Gartner produced these very nice graphs and I wanted to bring this to your attention today because this shows very nicely my career at Zebra in many ways. I joined Zebra almost 10 years ago. When I joined Zebra, I was told that RFID was the next best thing, the next big thing. Everything was going to be about RFID moving forward. And we've been on a 10-year dip and a 10-year trough, and I think the choice of words here is marvelous, the trough of disillusionment. RFID is finally coming good. It is very much on the ascendancy, and we are seeing with our own sales out data, with the dialogue we are having in all manner of industries, that RFID is very much, again, the buzzword. Because if we leap back to where we were, Barcode is very strong. Barcode adds a lot of value. It gives you the opportunity to interrogate and glean information and gather intelligence. But it does so in a point-in-time basis, a moment-in-time basis, so you'll have a last known level of visibility. RFID can give us a much more real-time, much more of a heartbeat level type of intelligence and interaction with an object, which empowers us to make more decisions more effectively. And I put cloud and IoT on here because, I mean, this one's interesting. There are many people using cloud-based technologies today, and elements of it will feature here. But this concept of the Internet of Things, very, very interesting, and comes back to sensor-based, intelligent devices that have a digital voice. And that will radically change the way we interact with objects and systems and machines. What I'll also say is that that 10-year period is going to shrink massively. And these things here, 1, 2, 3 years, who knows? But it will be nowhere near 10 years. Such is the pace of technological advancement, and such is the pace of expected change by the empowered consumer and the need to react by the manufacturer. So the manufacturing opportunity, as we've heard, is one based on data. All of these are Gartner terms made up in their technology predictions for the year ahead, and all of them interlink. They should not be viewed as separate individual items. Internet of Things creates big data. Big data allows for much better actionable analytics. That allows you to integrate ecosystems much more strongly. There was a great presentation earlier that spoke about aligning operational plants and different units across geographies. That's exactly what all of these things tied together allows us to do. Looking at a virtual plant floor. So instead of 5 different manufacturing sites, a single operating entity, regardless of location. And there's no reason why we should limit that to just our own manufacturing sites. The technologies are there today to allow us to harness our upstream supply chain, and even our downstream supply chain as well, so that we can begin to squeeze out those inefficiencies even more effectively and even more quickly. So ultimately, this is about unlocking hidden events. We call this the visible value chain. And it's about giving much, much greater contextual information to an object, or to an item, or to a machine, or to a component. And when we speak about hidden events, Tata Steel in Newport, a manufacturing site that's been built up over many, many decades, through acquisition, and of many foundries that go pre-war in terms of their existence. There are 11 kilometres of road within that single manufacturing site. It is vast. It has a shipping port. It has container lorries coming in, 24/7. The opportunity for hidden events to exist within that operation are huge. It's a massive sprawling site. They need, and they are using to very, very good effect, Auto ID technologies to unlock those hidden events, to gain the insight and the visibility required to streamline their processes, make better decisions, and ultimately improve the bottom line. So, just to leave you with this, I'm not going to go through all of these. But as you leave this presentation today, think about the potential for hidden events that exist within your operation. And think about what you could do and what the impact would be if you could unlock those, if you could solve those, if you could draw out the costs that you know exist within those inefficiencies and those bottlenecks. Because the tools exist today based on that Auto ID constant of barcode, passive, active, GPS and sensor-based technologies to allow you to change all of this. And it's not going to be an immediate or overnight thing. It is about taking steps. It's about leveraging the right visibility tool for the right job at the right time. But come and talk to us, come and talk to our partners, to Vision ID. Let us work with you to identify these bottlenecks and these inefficiencies within your work streams and make a recommendation as to the best visibility tool to allow you to unlock these hidden events and transform your business. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.